Thank you for joining us on this Thursday edition of Ed Schultz News and Commentary. A lot has happened in the last few days. Let's see. Jim Webb realized that he was making a fool of himself. The vice president announcing yesterday that he is not going to run. And now we're really down to two. I mean, Martin O'Malley's in it and Chafee's in it, but they're not going to get anywhere. So the American people are now going to be focusing in on the Benghazi hearings, which we'll talk about in just a moment with a number of people. But first of all, I just want to point out that I think that this is a real opportunity for the Sanders camp to start to differentiate exactly what he would do if he were president versus if Hillary Clinton was president. And I'm talking about Wall Street. I'm talking about round two of health care. I'm talking about minimum wage and how he would go about doing it and all the things for workers' rights in this country. There's going to be a fight between Clinton and Sanders when it comes to union endorsements in this country. We'll talk more about that in later shows. But today, this is a moment for, I think, Bernie Sanders to pivot and turn up the heat. Number one, turn up the heat on the corporate media and start asking the questions. Why is it that all of the polling that is out there, Sanders is never included when it comes to head-to-head competition against any Republican? I mean, we all know that Wall Street doesn't want Bernie Sanders, but the fact of the matter is that he does have a movement, whether they want to call it that or not. He's getting the money, he's getting the supporters, he's getting the people, and if Bernie Sanders doesn't win Iowa or New Hampshire, it could be over fast, because right now the national polling shows that Hillary is going to be getting a bounce and is getting a bounce now that Joe Biden is out of it all. So this puts pressure on the Sanders camp. He needs to pivot to a more aggressive position. And last night, he kind of started to do that in a very friendly way when he was on Jimmy Kimmel.
And some of these people are your supporters. Some of your supporters say you're not electable. They say you're too old. They say you're too far left. They say you don't bother to brush your hair. How do you respond to something like that, where people say, why bother supporting this guy? He's not going to be president.
It's a fair question. Let me answer it in two respects. If you look at polls out there, it turns out that in many of the polls, I am doing better than Hillary is against Donald Trump. We're doing better. Number two, when Republicans win, God forbid.
Okay, hold it right there. Hold it right there. That's a story, isn't it? If there are some polls out there that shows that Bernie Sanders is beating Donald Trump more than Hillary Clinton, it would seem to me that that would be a hell of a story, something to follow up on. Now, I haven't seen that. I'm not sure what poll Bernie Sanders is referring to, but that's a hell of a story. I mean, Donald Trump is gaining in the polls. In fact, the Republicans right now are trying to figure out, okay, is it time to surrender? Do we have to realize that it is going to be Trump? But if that's the story, if that's the case, then it would seem to me that we'd start seeing some town hall meetings on some of the networks with Bernie Sanders. Finish up.
Number two, when Republicans win, God forbid. When they win, Jimmy, voter turnout is very low. People, and we got millions of people are really discouraged and have given up on the political process. We have brought out in this campaign over 250,000 people to meetings. We have 650,000 individuals have contributed to our campaign. We have a real grassroots campaign, and I believe that if I am the Democratic nominee, you're going to see voter turnout go way up. I think we're going to win the White House. I think we recapture the Senate. We do well in the House. We win governor's chairs. Our job is not just to defeat Republicans. Our job is to revitalize American democracy, bring people who have given up on the political system back into the system, and create a government which represents them rather than large campaign donors.
Well, I'll tell you what, if the Sanders camp was paying attention to Bernie's performance last night on Jimmy Kimmel, which I'm sure they were, you want to take that last soundbite and you want to make that your opening statement in every debate. Because no one can argue with what Bernie Sanders is saying at this point when he describes his campaign. It's enthusiastic. It's visionary. It's hopeful. You can't ever stop selling hope. And so I think that this is a real opportunity for Sanders to get a heck of a lot more aggressive and tell the American people what the heck he would do if he was president. and start selling this idea and believing in the fact that he can win the nomination and he can be the president. Just because Bill O'Reilly's out there on The View saying that he has no chance doesn't mean shit. I mean, who the hell's Bill O'Reilly? He's just a cable head, just like anybody else. The fact is that Bernie has the support, but he has to start gaining more support by making people believe. And the question that Jimmy Kimmel asked was very interesting. He said that people that support him say that he's not electable. I haven't seen that story. I don't know anybody out there who seriously thinks that they support Bernie Sanders. Well, I support Bernie, but he can't win. That's not out there. That's an unfair position to put the candidate in. Get aggressive, Bernie. Get after it.